Hello everyone, welcome to the show. My name is Amanda Ostrander. I am a teacher-turned-homeschool mom, and this is Raising A to Z, a place where we talk about all things homeschooling. And today we're going to go over the units and themes that I've picked for next year. So we are in the middle of May. We are planning out next year right now. 2 weeks ago, I did what curriculum we're going to be doing with my third grader. Last week, I did what curriculum I'm doing with my fifth grader. This week, I'm going to go over what our themes and units and novel studies are for the year. And then next week, I'm going to take all of this information and start planning out the 2025-2026 school year. So today, we are focusing on themes and unit studies, what we are doing for our family style learning activities. And I'm very excited. So for those of you who don't know, I do let my kids have a huge say when it comes to what unit studies we pick. I think it gives them some ownership in what they're learning, and I'm able to customize what we're learning a little bit more. Sometimes I do give them some perimeters. So for example, this year I said I really need to kind of keep things simple. I have a lot on the go this year. So when it came to science, I said, we're just going to stick with the good and the beautiful this year. And I let them look at the list of all the options that were there, and they made some choices. And so I then paired those choices with some other novels, and we've got a whole selection of things that are happening. But I do let them make a lot of choices, and I do let them make a lot of decisions about what we're learning, because I think it really does help. It helps alleviate the struggle and the fight, because it's what they wanted to learn about in the first place. It helps just give them some ownership and some leadership when it comes to their homeschooling and their own learning. And you know, when you love what you're learning, you're more likely to be interested, right? And there's less struggles. No one is fully in charge of any subject either. So for example, I know that animal topics are often going to be Zoe. Zoe loves animals. But we're not going to do a full year of just animals. So like I try to balance out that everyone has a say in the year. Anywho, I'm going to go over what our topics are. Our first unit that we're going to do, if you can guess who picked this unit, you get bonus points. So the first unit that we're doing in terms of science next year is Kingdoms and Classifications from the Good and the Beautiful. This is going to be a unit that covers what the different classifications of animals are. So we're talking about mammals, reptiles, birds, amphibians, fish, vertebrates, invertebrates, like all of that kind of stuff. I thought it would be kind of an interesting unit to kind of get into what the differences are, what the similarities are, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to do this unit. Very, very excited about it. And to pair with it, I have my stack of books here. One sec. To pair with it, we are going to pair the very, very far north Brave Writer unit study to go with it. And I like, ironically, that both of them have bears on the front. Yeah, like they both have bears. So this is a book about a polar bear, and he's on an adventure. And there's a polar bear, there's a puffin, there's a hare, there's an owl. We could definitely talk about like what classifications they come from, what kingdom they're from. And I think this is one of the top books of the year that it was published, which was 2019. This is one of the top books of 2019. So I think it was like a huge hit. So I think my kids will A, like it, B, we're getting right, making connections right here, and it'll be a great book. So that is our first unit. Oh, also I want to say none of these are in order, but also if you had to guess, this was Zoe's choice. Our second unit, again, not in order, but just in terms of the list that I have here. Our second unit that we're going to be doing, guess who picked this unit? Weather and Water by the Good and Beautiful. This is a unit that talks a lot about like natural disasters, types of storms, rain cycles, the water cycle, lots of different, floods and tides and all things weather and water related. So we have this. I'm also going to pair it with, Brave Writers, The Heartwood Hotel, The Greatest Gift, which is number 2 in the series. So 2 years ago, not this school year, but the school year before, we read Heartwood Hotel number 1, and my kids loved it. They loved it. It's a very sweet little story about a cute little mouse who had to find a new home. And it was like, it pulled at the heartstrings. They loved it. And so last year, Brave Writer actually did the sequel So they have number 2 available, and I'm very, very excited to do number 2 with my kids. When I was showing them some options, they almost screamed when I told them it was Heartwood Hotel. Number 2 was an option. So this one takes place in the winter, and they're getting ready for winter. They're dealing with snowstorms. They're dealing with precipitation. We're making the connections between weather and water. So this is the book that we're going to do with weather and water. Cool. And that unit was chosen by Alexi. The next unit that we're going to do, again, think in your head, who picked this unit? Because I think it's always interesting. The next unit we're going to do is safety. When safety was brought up as a topic option from the list, and I had someone who was very interested in it, I looked at it and I loved it because it was also a little bit of a shorter unit by Good and Beautiful standards, which often from experience, they're kind of like 14, 15 lessons long, give or take. This one I think was only 10. So I thought it would be kind of a great filler piece for us for maybe a month where we kind of need a little bit of time. So I kind of like that it was a bit of a shorter unit. But yeah, so we're going to do safety. It covers all kinds of topics from like emergencies, how to be safe in the kitchen, how to be safe outdoors, like all kinds of like safety things that you might want to teach your kids. And it's things that like, if you don't talk about it, they don't know. So we're definitely going to do the safety one. I'm going to pair it with a little bit of like first aid stuff. And I will be honest, I don't have a book to go with it because I don't have one, but we will do a Brave Writer at the same time. It just won't be on theme. And I apologize. I can't always make things happen. I did have some Brave Writer units that I had purchased and we've never gotten to them. And so that is kind of also coming in. So one of the books that we're going to be doing is the good old Encyclopedia Brown Boy Detective. I purchased the Brave Writer for it 2 years ago and haven't done it yet. So I figured we have the book, we have the unit. I don't need to buy a new one. So we're going to do that. And my goal is actually to get Alexi to do a lot of the reading for this book. She loves a good old timey book anyway. So like something that's a little bit older, like a Nancy Drew or like things that take place in older times. She loves it. So it's a shorter book, which I thought would go with a shorter unit. So these will happen at the same time. That's what we're doing. And Alexi picked safety again. Our last science unit that we're doing in 2025-2026. Again, guess who picked this unit? We are going to be doing mammals. We're doing mammals. I'll give you 3 guesses as to who picked this one. If you guessed Zoe, you are correct. My little animal lover definitely wanted to do mammals. And so we're going to do mammals. It covers all things mammals. It covers all kinds of mammals, which I was like, when I was looking through it, I was kind of surprised. So there's units on cats and dogs and marsupials and pachyderms and like all kinds of like all the different subcategories of mammals, which I got really excited about because I, as a kid, enjoyed that stuff as well. But I was just like excited that we were going to cover all those things. And we know Zoe's going to love it. B, Alexi is down for it. We've been on a bit of a nature documentary kick lately, and they're both thrilled with that. So we're going to do mammals. And to pair with mammals, I chose the one and only Ivan, which I'm very, very excited about. Again, have heard nothing but good things about this book. It is about a gorilla who's living in a shopping mall and then kind of is content. Like, it is what it is, until he starts to realize that maybe it is not all that it's cracked up to be. And it starts to think about maybe it's time for a change and to look for something better. So we have this book. I'm very, very excited. It was a top seller. It is one on so many reading lists. So I'm very excited to add it to our reading list for next year. And again, this is going to come with the Brave Writer unit. So we're pairing mammals, which does cover apes. And there's also an elephant in this, eh? Yes, an elephant. So we're pairing mammals, which cover apes and pachyderms, with this one. And it's going to be a great unit study. Now we're kind of getting into the social studies topics. We're doing 3 social studies history type units. The first one we're doing is the Canadian geography unit. We've done kind of an intro to Canadian geography before, and it was actually one of the things that frustrated me and started me writing True North history, was because we spent more time learning about birds the provincial bird and the provincial flower than anything else about Canadian geography. And it was like one of the best Canadian geography options out there. And that's what we learned about. And I was like, hey, but what about mountains? And what about waterways? And what about, the history of each province? And like, what about all of those things? And it's not covered. So then I wrote it. And so Canadian geography, that is going to be our first unit that we do in terms of social studies and geography. And then, yeah, I'm very excited. So then I paired this. This is not a Brave Writer unit. This is probably just one that we're going to read. And I might write for it. We're going to read Esther and Ben's Investigation, Spies on Parliament Hill, which is a Canadian mystery book, take place in Ottawa. And it is a kind of a lower level. I'm not going to lie. It's not a very big, difficult read, but it is highly rated. And I'm going to be super honest. It is going to also be a little bit of, research, because I have thought about maybe starting to add one of the offerings on True North History to be some Canadian novel studies. And this would be a great option because it is truly a Canadian story happening by a Canadian author. And this would be a great kind of younger, read aloud for younger kids. And because of the way it's written, I could probably get Zoe to help me read aloud with it. So I think it would be a great option with my more reluctant reader. So I'm very excited. It's going to be a great unit. Like I said, we're doing Canadian geography with Spies on Parliament Hill. Nice little add-on, right? The next unit that we're doing is also a True North History unit. We are doing History 2, which is Start of a Nation. This is the next unit. We did History 1 this year, which was coming to Canada, how people got to Canada. This one is British North America and New France and how all of that came to be. And so it is a great unit. My husband, when he helps me with all of the animation for all the videos that we do. And I was telling him some of the topics that came up in the videos for this unit. He was like, I didn't know this. What are you talking? This is the coolest stuff ever. I didn't know this. And I was like, yeah, I know. So we're going to cover things like New France. We cover things about what's happening in the colonies in America, how America comes to be, because that's a whole thing. If England and France hadn't gone to war over Canada, there would be no United States. And then because there was the United States, it affected Canada, all these things that are interconnected. We talk about that. We talk about the 7-Year War. We talk about some of the first big European style battles that happened in Canada. Oh, we talk about Pontiac's Wars and how different things came out that have impacted the Indigenous people for ever since. Some really interesting, wonderful, fascinating, terrible, wild things have happened in this time period. And we're going to cover them when we do True North History, History 2, Start of a Nation. We're very excited. Now, I currently don't have a novel study for this one. This is another one that I didn't have a novel study for because there's not that many that are out there. But I did pick a book to go kind of not along with it, but to read at the same time, because sometimes it works out that you have things that work together and sometimes it just doesn't. So this Wilder Lore is a book that I've had on my list for 3 years. I've tried to convince the kids that we should read this because this book sounds so fascinating. I was like, oh, I think you guys would love it. And they're just like, meh, meh. The last 2 years that I've suggested it. And so finally this year, they were like, yeah, that sounds interesting. I was like, yes. So we're going to read it. It is about the town's mushroom farmer, and his only needs to work hard and follow the rules. And then one day he'll become the head mushroom farmer. But he accidentally breaks the town's most sacred rule: never ever stray into the woods and never meet the beasts. And then when he does, he now has to decide what's he going to do. And so I'm very excited to read this. This is going to be a Brave Writer book. So we do have the unit for that. I'm very excited. So we're going to do Start of Nations and Wilder Lore. Not that they're connected, but they're just going to happen at the same time. And then last but not least, I'm going to be really honest. I don't have a unit study picked for this yet. I will find one. I haven't found one yet. Not one that's covering what I want to cover. And if I can't find it, I'll just make it. It is what it is. But we are also going to be studying ancient Greece. And as I've said in the last couple of videos, the lore and all of the mythology that goes into ancient Greece still greatly comes up in our writings and literature today. And I want to make sure that my kids understand that, because I didn't understand the impact of that until I was an adult. And then I was like, I missed so many things. So we're going to do ancient Greece as our last unit study. And what better to go with ancient Greece than Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief? This is just a fantastic book. I've had it on my shelf for years. And it's an amazing book. So we're going to read this. We're going to, and it's nice that there's like a movie. They're coming out with a new TV show for it. So like, it'll be a really nice like add-on, right? We're connecting different types of media. It'll be a fantastic connection book for us. And we're going to just love learning about ancient Greece. My kids are excited too, and I'm very excited. And I always have to have one book kind of on the side in case we finish reading earlier or we get through things faster than I was anticipating. A novel study is always easy, just like keep in the back corner. I do have one sitting, waiting, ready to go. And it is The Wild Robot. As you all know, I'm sure you know, the movie came out this year, and my kids have asked to read it. And so I have it. We will see. It is ready. It's waiting to go. And I think that if we come to the point where we do need one more novel study for the year, this will be it. And if not, it'll be added on to the next year. So that's it. That's the themes and the units for 2025, 2026, which is very, very exciting. So that's it. But you definitely want to come back next week when I do a whole video on planning my whole year. And we have some big things that are changing in our schedule next year and my planning of next year. It's going to be a little bit different. So you'll definitely want to come back and see what our year is going to look like next year. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to click the bell so you know when that video comes out. And then follow us along on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok so you can see all the cool stuff that we're doing and learning about on a regular basis. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week.